Hello and welcome to Astro Death Charts. My name is Trisha Keith. In today's episode, I'll be looking at the life and death of Marshal McLuhan, Canadian philosopher and media theorist. I'll be using his natal chart as a mirror to reflect the work that he's most famous for. Before we begin this reading, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe. It's the easiest way to support the channel and to improve the quality of my work. Thank you. The medium is the message, probably the most familiar quote of Marshal McLuhan's work, and the title of Chapter 1 from Understanding Media, The Extensions of Man, his 1964 publication. McLuhan's focus of interest was the medium as the agent of change itself, not the content of the medium, which is another medium, nor the user of the medium. Whether technology produced cornflakes or Cadillacs didn't matter. What mattered was the new order of human work and association, shaped by the technology. The message of any medium or technology he was referring to was the change of scale, pace, or pattern that it introduced into human affairs. Hinging on this phrase, the medium is the message, we'll be taking a basic overview of his chart. Because I don't know his birth time, I've used the technique of putting his sun in the first house of a whole sign chart. Here we see his sun at 27 Cancer, Neptune at 21 Cancer, Ascendant at 20 Cancer, along with asteroids Vesta and Messenger conjunct at 11 Cancer. The conglomerate of Cancer placements sensitized McLuhan's persona to the trends approaching, with Neptune lending inspiring color. Neptune gave his media followers a reflective surface to project an ideal image of the times upon him. He was coined the high priest of pop culture and the metaphysician of media. You can hear the Neptune influence in both of those titles. The waves of Neptune come and go, changing the scene while they are there. McLuhan was in vogue during the 1960s and 70s. Not many university students nowadays recognize his name. The power of Neptune blurs, blends, and absorbs without a filter. The message of the medium is like music, adding an immersive experience to a room, or an invisible gas that seeps into the identity, lifestyle, and mental health of those breathing in the incense. This is the seduction of Neptune. The asteroid Messenger in McLuhan's chart made an exact conjunction to Vesta, keeper of the flame, at 11 Cancer. The flame, kept alive in Vesta's temple, is the flame that represents the stability and vitality of the domestic home, as well as the productive function of the nation-state. Vesta merged with Messenger lends a stabilizing influence and value set of continuity onto the mutable and ever-changing Messenger. McLuhan had a faith, reports his grandson, Andrew McLuhan. Technological change comes fast and furious, and we're getting to the point where we could drop off the precipice and down into the vortex, which has a grip on us as mighty as it is uncredited. But I know that my grandfather lived and worked in hope and faith. Faith that we were not as helpless as we assumed, and hope that we would eventually figure it out and do something about it. Looking to McLuhan's sun, the symbol of light, vision, and consciousness, the sun, like the internet, is always on and at the helm of the grand square, linking both cardinal signs, Cancer and Capricorn, to the fixed signs, Taurus and Scorpio. The leaders of the home and government, with the survivors of the ship after it goes down. His sons square the nodes, in effect, placed a bend on the fates. His sons square Jupiter and Mars, empowered by the impending nodes, and opposite Uranus in Capricorn. His grand cross mirrors the engine that ignited his creative process, cardinal Cancer stellium, of emotional imagination. Through innovation, Uranus, rationally observed, Capricorn, perceived and analyzed, Scorpio. Marshal McLuhan saw that every new technology, which he defined broadly as any extension of human faculties, disrupts tradition, Uranus and Capricorn, and reshapes social life, Taurus, ruling his 11th house of social connections, affiliations, and capital, by altering our sensory balance and the environments we live in. We shape our tools, and our tools shape us. The Grand Cross dominating his chart linked together 4 regions. Marshal McLuhan and his son, Eric McLuhan, identified 4 attributes each human technology have in common that ultimately shape us and our experience. According to their findings, every human technology will enhance, obsolesce, retrieve, and reverse. As such, new technologies enhance or amplify some sense or ability or function. They obsolesce or take over from or push aside another innovation. They retrieve or bring back in a new form something from the past, something previously obsolesced. And when pushed to an extreme, the new form flips or reverses into something new. Here's how I played with their discovery of the 4 laws of media, looking at human technology of astrology, a medium on its own, within the medium of YouTube. What has been enhanced? Meaning has been enhanced in the lives of those who consume and practice astrology as a set of principles and symbols charting out our world in constant change. Astrology is an ideal subject matter for YouTube that requires constantly new content for the channel to stay alive. Every day provides a new pattern of meaning in the sky of cycles within cycles. What has been made obsolete? The singular voice of the all-knowing prophet, priest, seer of astrology. Astrology is now a shared worldwide technology of real people making meaning in their everyday lives. What has been retrieved? A non-monotheistic worldview wherein humans are interdimensional and connected to all life forces within and around them. And what has been reversed? The professional TV production teams creating content for everyday people has reversed to everyday people becoming YouTube creators, broadcasting astrology from their own homes. Remember asteroids Vesta and Messenger conjunct at 11 Cancer. Now let's roam around McLuhan's chart, beginning with Jupiter, ruler of his 9th house, his midheaven in Pisces, highlighting the higher meaning of his career, the idealism of his ivory tower, the Center for Culture and Technology at the University of Toronto. Jupiter in Scorpio gave the center the cutting edge it was known for. McLuhan was like a hunter in the wilderness of technology. He could pick up a scent and track it to its den. Jupiter in Scorpio was also the ruler of McLuhan's sixth house, of inglorious day-to-day life routines, work, and tools, so very necessary for a healthy and productive daily existence. With Jupiter in his fifth house, he was encouraged to go big and take creative risks. In Scorpio, his penetrating analysis expanded into a world view. He probed the laws of media and explained the looping back in time of nostalgic narratives as the dreams of a generation passed their climax. McLuhan's Jupiter trined his natal Pluto at 28 Gemini, a sign of technical acumen and quick reflexes. Pluto was hinged to two asteroids, Prometheus and Ceres, who lent their historic mythologies to the cross-hatched interdisciplinary mosaic of metaphors McLuhan's work is known for. Jupiter trining such a complex plutonic stellium added to his endless enthusiasm to plumb the depths of analysis. Pluto's nature of compressing and distorting what is hidden, as well as sniffing out the treasure before it is identified and opened, unafraid of the stank decomposition. This Pluto now had two extra arms, Prometheus and Ceres, each with their own agendas. A few words for Prometheus. He was the Greek titan who stole fire, or technology, from the gods on Mount Olympus. Zeus punished Prometheus eternally, binding him to the side of a cliff, where an eagle ate his regenerating liver every day. Prometheus's conscience was unwilling to make amends for his integrity and choice to aid the development of humanity. A few words on Ceres. She is the mother aspect of the mother-daughter complex, evolutionary new life and evolutionary death. Ceres provides us with what we need to flourish in the material world and passes on the skills of grieving the agony of one's losses. Ceres is present in rituals where loss is acknowledged, physical death loss and non-physical death. Pluto, conjunct Prometheus and Ceres, sows the seed of the faithful and the unfaithful, the betrayer and the betrayed. The scene is an initiation into a deeper knowledge of self in the 12th house, of isolation, secret enemies, and transcendence. The capacity for giving and receiving mercy comes alive here. Pluto, Prometheus, Ceres were in a quincunx angle to Uranus at 27 Capricorn. An angle of constant adjustment, never at ease, but pivoting from the weight of one side to the other. Merging our storylines now with Uranus, another archetype of breakthrough, rebellion, and liberation. The adjustments at the fulcrum of this opposition reveal the price and punishment for liberation. The losses incurred in the disposable, progress-oriented culture. The damage done in withholding technological advances. And the pretense that progress is worth losing what becomes forgotten. We ourselves can feel the uncomfortable adjustments we make with each new wave of technology, the new choices we face, and the price we pay to defy the status quo or step into the unknown and perhaps glossy next new level of consciousness. However you define the status quo and the next level of consciousness. Back to Jupiter. Conjunct South Node at 6 Gemini. Giving McLuhan confidence in his instinctual psychological understanding of human potential and the far-reaching effects tech had for human culture. Trust issues abound. Scorpio scars trace the process of letting go of painful and passionate memories. Jupiter conjunct South Node, when fate signals the time, the let go and the loss are massive. Jupiter opposed Mars at 3 Taurus and North Node at 6 Taurus. Mars, in his detriment, worked hard on behalf of Jupiter as his henchman and traditional ruler of Scorpio. Jupiter pours blessings on Mars conjunct North Node in the 11th house of support for humanitarian goals, collective capital, collective emergence, and the momentum built through a force greater than oneself. Mars conjunct North Node fights for the group and likely within the group. Mars is the desire to have access to resources and build at the source of those resources. Mars is an enduring willingness to launch action for progress. In essence, McLuhan's Grand Cross was part initiative, part stabilization. The medium initiated the change stabilized into the new status quo, Uranus and Capricorn. In McLuhan's words, our concern is to explore and reveal the process patterns of current happenings. Since it is no longer safe to wait for the harsh judgment of results, we must discover how to anticipate effects to avoid the inevitable. Now let's turn to look at McLuhan's death and natal chart synastry. First we see natal sun conjunct death chart descendant at 27 Cancer. The natal sun is setting in the death chart's 7th house. You can see that little red line on the outer ring conjunct the sun. That's the death chart descendant, the 7th house, which marks the shift from self to others. It's about connection, exchange, and the mirror we see ourselves in through others, whether for love or business. What a remarkable position for the natal sun to move towards and arrive in the last moments of life. Seeing yourself through others' eyes. This is what near-death experiencers talk about. Reality perceived all at once everywhere, depending on where one focuses. And apart from partnerships, the 7th house signifies journeys and long endings, and the natural process of things vanishing or ending, like the setting sun, like the death of the physical self. Reports tell us that Marshal McLuhan died peacefully in his sleep. after watching the 11 p.m. news with a family friend and toasting with champagne Happy New Year on December 31st, 1980. Next, we see Death Chart Moon in red, conjunct natal Jupiter at 5 Scorpio. The emotional needs of his dying phase were met by Jupiter's understanding and benevolence, truing his wheel of life with humor and goodwill. John Culkin, at Marshal McLuhan's funeral mass, touched on the characteristic trait McLuhan displayed throughout his life. He was the kind of person who knew that manslaughter and man's laughter were spelled the same. It all depends on where you put the emphasis. I will remind you here that McLuhan's natal Jupiter ruled his 6th house of health. 18 months prior to his death, he had had a stroke. And although he almost completely recovered physically and certainly mentally, the tragic irony was that this most eloquent communicator on communications was rendered speechless. His grandson, Andrew McLuhan, was less than 2 years old when his grandfather had his first stroke. Andrew tells us, "I couldn't speak much either. I'm told that we used to have babbling nonsense conversations between us. At least that's what it sounded like to everyone else. I think it made sense to us at the time, and I like to think that it meant a lot to both of us too." Jupiter in Scorpio will enhance the phoenix-like qualities of finding one's newer, deeper, truer power after being disempowered. Jupiter in Scorpio also makes for a playful edge that will take the punchline to the next level. Next, we look at Death Chart Ascendant conjunct natal Uranus at 27 Capricorn. His state of death met with the ultimate liberation and surprise. It must have been terribly shocking for his family to find him non-responsive in the morning. Though I can't help but think that his close family would agree that it was just like him to do that. Head on out quietly in his own world and forget to say goodbye. Death Chart Ascendant conjunct natal Uranus freed him from his speechless form. I see these cosmic conjunctions pointing together to a purpose of release, a peaceful, natural death illuminating higher mind. The precision of these conjunctions is like rolling through the gears of a combination lock. Without the code, the chaos of the numerical arrangements is overwhelming. Yet McLuhan's ripe conjunctions reveal the purpose, completion, and the bookends of his life. And there are more. Death chart Mercury conjunct Sun in red in the 7th house. We're in a Kazemi aspect, or quote unquote, in the heart at the time of his death. This powerful alignment of Mercury with the Sun purifies, empowers, and revitalizes Mercury, acting as a moment of rebirth and intense clarity. Again, this is what near-death experiencers report, that life after death feels more real and alive than an embodied life. Astrology continues with the soul after death. His state of death, Mercury, met the Sun's core essence and fused with that life force, initiating a new cycle of the messenger and the message. Notice death chart Sun conjunct Mercury, opposing natal asteroids Vesta and Messenger at 11 Cancer. There is not a red line appearing connecting these 2 points across the first and seventh houses, but you can eyeball them. Asteroid Messenger merged with the eternal flame of the hearth, standing face to face with Mercury, another messenger planet, in the heart of the sun. Self meeting a world of self. These are the sounds of the code clicking into place before the lock opens. The last 2 conjunctions I will highlight involve Chiron in the natal and death chart. Chiron, like Prometheus, acts as an intermediary between the divine and mortal worlds. Both archetypes portray the suffering that comes with higher consciousness and a commitment to human liberation. The source of their wisdom and transcendence is their dignity, integrity, and love for life over their pain. First, looking at natal Chiron conjunct death chart asteroid Meta at 6 Pisces in the 9th house. Chiron in Pisces is a healer and good connector. Often lacking boundaries, Chiron and Pisces natives are prone to absorbing the pain of others until they learn to process and clear the energy. Asteroid Meta is literally the big tech company that owns Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and Messenger, building social building social experiences like metaverse, virtual augmented reality, and AI. The symbolic reality is a living reality. Pisces is the etheric realm, the vastness everywhere that you can get lost in if ungrounded. Natal Chiron, conjunct death chart asteroid Meta, represents our wound of separation from our biosphere towards a spiraling coil into the metaverse. The healing begins when we stop, pay attention, and disengage from what is toxic in the atmosphere. And lastly, death chart Chiron conjunct natal Pallas Athena in McLuhan's 11th house of collective technology and politics. Pallas Athena's owl symbolizes wisdom, knowledge, and strategic insight. Known for its ability to see in the dark, reflecting Athena's sharp intellect and her ability to respond effectively in changing, challenging circumstances. The wound and healing in Marshal McLuhan's death is a message from the medium of feminine insight. Use your strategic mind to keep yourself healthy. Surround yourself with medicines that work for you today. Keep the loves you love close to you, in your heart and touch, as much as possible. Do not deny yourself the opportunity to live and dream with the jewels. We end with a quote from McLuhan from his Medium is the Message. There is absolutely no inevitability. Sorry, I'm going to try that again. There is absolutely no inevitability as long as there is a willingness to contemplate the situation. Thank you, Marshall. And thank you for listening. This completes my Astro death chart for Marshal McLuhan. Till next time.